Stu, welcome to the show. In addition to all the foreign policy news that's happening today, and there's a lot of it, you've got the tariff situation where Trump got all this negative news coverage over the weekend because he said, as of Saturday, he said, I am jacking up tariffs on Canadian goods by 25%, Mexico by 25%, and China by 10% because he'd already raised the tariffs on China, which Joe Biden then kept in place after criticizing Trump for the tariffs, but kept them because they were working. And Trump said they're going into effect on Tuesday. It's happening. I want a better fair trade situation with Canada and some crackdown on the border. And I want a serious crackdown on the Mexican border from the Mexicans. Well, cue the Harry Enton segment over on CNN about how many people do not want this. They're very against the tariffs. Okay, I think the average person doesn't think about tariffs at all. Maybe doesn't even fully appreciate what it is. They've just been told by every media outlet, left and right, that this is a colossally bad idea. Go find the media outlet that's going to explain why this is a clever idea, such that both parties wound up agreeing to it, Trump then Biden, when it comes to China. That's not out there. Anyway, Mexico is already caved. And we get the news this morning that Mexico has agreed to put 10,000 troops along the southern border, in addition to other measures, which I will pull up and go over in 1 second. But what do you make just of the overall posturing of this thing and where we are after 48 hours?
It really is incredible. These things move really quickly in the Trump world. I think in a vacuum, I'm not a huge fan of tariffs either. Tariffs are a tax, and they do tend to do some economic damage. They raise prices. Donald Trump talked about that very specifically and said that, we could be seeing some short-term harm from this, but long-term, he thinks it's going to be worth it. What I think is kind of fascinating about the way everyone's reacted over this particular round of tariffs is we're all kind of acting like we weren't here for the first term. The first term, a lot of this was talked about as well. Some of it went into place. Some of it was more targeted than initially proposed. And some of it wound up just being what most of, I think, these threats are from Donald Trump, which are negotiating tactics. We all know how Donald Trump operates. And he puts something like this out there, a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico. And within 2 days, he's already got a giant chunk of what he wanted to get done and a month delay. And the month delay in these tariffs indicates he wants more. He hasn't had everything that he wants yet, but he's giving them a little bit of time to come across those lines so that these things don't have to go into place. And he is just able to do this in a way that I think is central to his overall philosophy, that we don't need to apologize for being Americans. We don't need to apologize for being a global superpower. You saw this with Panama. Your great interview with Rick just a few minutes ago. The Panama Canal is in the hands of Panama because we all kind of felt bad. The Carter administration was like, oh, we don't want to be colonialists. You guys can have this incredibly valuable thing that we built with our blood and treasure. You can just have it. And Donald Trump is turning that around and saying, we don't need to apologize for being Americans. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to stand for what we actually believe in and try to turn around these agreements that we have with these other countries that are not beneficial to us. America first kind of playing out in real time.
Mm-hmm. The Mexican president said, this is via the New York Times, that the 10,000 Mexican National Guard troops being sent to the border would be pulled from other parts of the country and would be in addition to security forces already there. She said it was important for humanitarian reasons for Mexico to help control the flow of fentanyl into the United States. And she said there was a plan to deploy the troops immediately. I mean, who in their right mind thinks that's a bad idea, right? This isn't the whole ball game, but that's a concession that was gotten within hours of Saturday's announcement by Trump that he meant business on these tariffs and he actually was going to do it. Then you get Trudeau up in Canada, who starts off by saying, oh, we used to be really good friends and we've helped you out a lot. It's like the first stages of grief, denial. What do you mean? We go back a long way. And then he says, I want to tell you that less than 1% of fentanyl, less than 1% of illegal crossings into the United States come from Canada. We're not your number one problem. But hearing concerns from both Canadians and Americans, we launched a $1.3 billion border plan. Great. Thank you. It's a start. It's not going to end the deal, but it's a start. Politico reported on Friday that a source said Trump's Commerce Secretary nominee has asked for proof of these efforts regarding Canada's $1.3 billion border plan. Apparently, they don't believe that Trudeau's actually doing this or actually about to do this, but they announced it. And right now, they too are facing a 25% tariff on some $30 billion of U.S. goods starting Tuesday. It will ramp up to $125 billion worth of goods in 21 days if they don't do what Trump wants, which I think goes beyond just this $1.3 billion border plan. But it's very interesting because I don't see a ton of positive coverage for President Trump across these same outlets today on how it's working.
Yeah, it is working. Often when I talk to my daughter about cleaning her room, I will tell her, I don't expect you to be perfect. I just want you to care. I want you to actually care. That's all I'm asking. And I feel like that's all we're asking of like a Mexico, right? We understand that you're not going to be able to stop every single person coming across the border. We have to have security on our side for that reason, right? But you have to actually care. You can't be encouraging people. You can't be telling people that, go to the border and please send back all the money to our country. You can't be letting people from your southern border traverse through your entire nation without stopping them as they go to our border. That's a basic ask. And that's why, look, tariffs as an economic policy, definitely not my favorite thing. But it is, everyone knows that, right? We know that it kind of can do some damage to both sides. What our argument is, as the big boys on the block, is to say that, look, we know that the damage that it will do to you is a lot worse than it's going to do to us. So we will sit here and we will wait you out if we have to. We'd like to get to a place, and Trump has talked about this in the past, we'd love to get to a place where there was none of this stuff. There were no tariffs at all. Everyone was free trading. Everyone was dealing with each other fairly. We're not there. And I think it's largely because of the stance America has had for seemingly a generation of being sorry for who we are. I listened to your interview with Marco Rubio, Megyn, the other day. And at one point you said, these are smaller countries. The argument is that we can bully around Colombia. And Marco Rubio was like, I don't want to call it bullying. It's not bullying. I mean, you don't have to call it that, but we are sort of big boying the rest of the world right now. And that's okay. Like, that's a good thing. It's a place we should get back to. We shouldn't be unfair to people. We shouldn't be unfair to other countries. We shouldn't just terrorize them for the sake of the pleasure. But what we should be able to do is stand on our values, prioritize our own citizens and the economy they have to deal with and the safety and crime situation that they have to deal with on a daily basis, and say, look, we'll work with you to stop these problems, but you have to care about it a little bit. And right now, it doesn't look like you do.
Mm-hmm. And so we'll make you care. If you don't care, we'll get your money involved in this game, and then you will care. You'll care a lot, because right now most products from Canada and Mexico into the United States face no tariffs. So this is a big change if we slap on this 25% tariff to most of their goods. We did make an exclusion on, I think it was Canadian energy. It's a 10% tariff. Crude oil from Canada would suffer only a 10% charge, which the New York Times points out appears to be a tacit acknowledgement by Trump. The tariffs might translate into higher gas taxes or gas prices. He understands what he's doing. Trump himself tweeted out, will there be some pain? Yes, maybe, and maybe not. But we will make America great again, and it will all be worth the price that must be paid. We're a country that is now being run with common sense, and the results will be spectacular. He said the tariff lobby, headed by the globalist and always wrong Wall Street Journal, is working hard to justify countries like Canada, Mexico, China, and too many others to name, to continue the decades-long ripoff of America. We're not going to be the stupid country any longer. And it seems to be he's asking Americans to understand maybe there will be some short-term pain in some areas, but trust me, it's for long-term gain. We continue to face uncertainty when it comes to the economy, with a perfect storm brewing as Social Security and Medicare hit a breaking point, as the largest generation is, of course, hitting retirement. A smaller workforce means a smaller tax base. You pair that with our growing national debt and rising cost of living, and we could have a big problem. So what are you doing right now to protect your family for the future? Gold can be a safe haven in hard economic times, and Birch Gold makes it easy to diversify a portion of your savings into physical gold. Birch Gold will help you transition an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and it does not cost you 1 cent out of pocket. Protect your future today. Text MK to the number 989898 and get your free info kit on gold and a copy of the ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. There's no obligation, just information. Birch Gold has earned the trust of countless Americans looking to safeguard their savings and diversify them. Text my initials MK to the number 989898 to learn more today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.